Vibe coding. You can give AI a prompt and you can say, create me this piece of software, create me this WordPress plugin, and it will magically, right in front of your eyes, create the code in the same way that you have used an LLM like ChatGPT to revise writing, to critique writing, to create writing. You can do the same with your coding. So if you don't know how to code, or if you're kind of just a basic beginner, novice, you can use AI. You can use Cursor specifically to create some software. And I am going to, along with you, create a WordPress plugin. And we'll make something really simple and we'll play around with it. And we will use two tools to do it. First, there's LocalWP, which you can install a local version of WordPress on your computer and play around and create a website, create software, create plugins. And we'll also use Cursor.com, which is a Windows and Mac desktop-based tool where you can just create your code. So we're going to kind of work our way up to it. First, I'll click on download for Windows. I'll download the Cursor program for Windows. And while that's downloading, I'll go to localwp.com and install it. And then what it gives us here is we open up local, and here we have, I had this test site already, but I can click on this giant plus sign. I'll say create new site, continue. I'll call this test site 2. And we'll just leave everything as is, And we need to come up with a username and password. So I'll go to dinopass.com. SlimySoup89 is the password it gave us, which I don't mind sharing with you because this is not a live website on the internet. It's setting all this up. And even while that's setting up, let's say a lot of this is already overwhelming, right? You say, oh my gosh, I need to install all this stuff. I need to code all this stuff. Can't I just use ChatGPT? Well, that is actually a great way to dip your toe into the water, because here's what you can do with ChatGPT. You can say, I want to, oh my gosh, all that's installing. I want to write a WordPress plugin. Let's see, that will ask me some multiple choice questions. And I guess what we'll say here is, I want, for this first iteration of the plugin, I want you to generate hard code the questions for me just to test the functionality. So we'll say generate 5 multiple choice questions, 4 options each. And each option only has 1 correct answer. Then at the end, show me my score. So give me the code for this WordPress plugin. And let's say we didn't know much of anything. We didn't even know that we needed to write PHP code or what to put in the file. Check all this out. So here we go. It created all this. It gave us a series of hard-coded questions. It gave us the header that's required for WordPress. It said save it as this file name and save it in this folder. And it created all kinds of JavaScript. And then it told us even how to place it on a post or a page. So if you are one of these people that gets completely overwhelmed whenever you see a bunch of code on the screen, then this won't work for you. But if you can say, okay, I know I don't know a lot, but I'll look at what's right here in front of me and I'll try to work with it and I'll be curious and I'll experiment, then you will do a lot better. So it gave us all this. And what we'll do is, I personally like to use a tool called Edit Plus, but we'll get Cursor installed in just a moment. And when we install this tool called Local, we will, let's see, we started the site and we can click on, let's just see what it gave us, right? It gave us open site. Here's this blog, test site 2. And then we can go here to what's called the WP admin and what would we say? That was Slimy Soup 89 was our password. We can log into the backend, and heck, even if we forgot this password, in local here, we can go to this one-click admin and say on, and then say it's Robert Plank. So we don't even need to know our own password. We can just enable one-click admin, click a button, and then we're logged into the backend of our site. So here's what WordPress looks like, right? And what we'll do is we go to this plugins list. There's no plugins available. And if we didn't know what we're doing, we'd say, how about this? We'd say, so I have local installed on my Windows computer. Where do I find my tests of my site I created, test site 2, to create the folder and save the file you specify. And it will just guide you right through. And ChatGPT will actually give you a great head start in any kind of strategizing or coding. But the problem is that you'll get to the point where you're doing so much copying and pasting and it will just get out of control. And that's when a tool such as Cursor is needed. But here's what it says. See users, your name, local sites, test site 2, app public. And then it says, go to that folder and create the new folder. And you know what? I'm not even going to use Edit Plus. I'm going to pretend that we don't have any tools installed at all, right? So we'll go to our File Explorer. We'll go see users, our username, local sites. And then here we go. It said that it is under your name, local sites, test site 2, app public WP content plugins. So we go in here, app public WP content plugins, and then it says make a folder called simple quiz plugin. So we'll just copy that name, right click and go to new folder, simple quiz plugin. And then we want to create a new file. So I guess what we'll do is we'll call this quiz-plugin. So we'll go right click new text document, but instead of letting it be a .txt, we just do this, quiz plugin.php. And this is empty, but if we edit it in Notepad, there we go. And I'll just close all these other tabs that we have. Oh boy. All right, so all the other tabs are closed. And then what we'll do is, even without adding in any new software, we'll go to all this code here, click copy, go to Notepad, paste it in, file, save, and then switch back to our plugins list. And you know what we can even do is take this Notepad and kind of dock it to the left, take our browser, dock it on the right, and here's this simple quiz plugin that we added. So we'll click on activate. Cool, that's activated. But then it said that in order for us, so here's usage, right? You go and you add this to any poster page using this short code. So we'll copy that code. And even if we didn't know how to do that, we'll say, walk me through the clicks in WordPress for your usage section. And even if you didn't know WordPress, because I almost got ahead of myself, it says to go to WP admin, pages, add new, then enter a title, and then add a block, shortcode block, and type in that block and publish the page, then view the quiz page. Amazing, right? So we can even just dock this on this side, and we'll just go side by side, right? We'll say we're in WP admin, and then we'll go pages, add page, and then we'll call the title quiz. Oh gosh. The title is quiz page, and then add a block, browse all, and here's shortcode. And then it says we want simple underscore quiz, then publish the page, and it even knows to confirm and publish again. And it created this quiz dash page, and then you go to view page, and here we go, question, it's capital of France, and we'll just answer these randomly, submit answers. Ooh, so now it doesn't seem to give us a score at the end. And this is where the iterating comes in, right? So it seems like it submitted the answers, but then if we look back at the code, why is it that it did not give us the score? See, it was supposed to say you scored, so why did it not give us the final score? And so here's where a thing called debugging happens, right? So we hit F12, and it says invalid or unexpected token, and we can just copy this right back into ChatGPT. You can say, why didn't it work? And then it goes and tries to fix it for us. And we'll see if that works. And so now it's, okay, it's still version 1.0. And so syntax error. So we'll save that. And then we'll go back and refresh the page. And it says, or when I load that page, even before I take the quiz. Unexpected token. Okay, now version 1.1. Wait for that all to regenerate. So you can already see how this is getting a little bit repetitive, right? And it sure is cranking out the code. And if we knew anything about coding and we said, you know, I want to clean this up, want to do a little better, you just do it in baby steps. But the first, so now the error's gone. And the first order of business is just to see if this works. There we go. You scored 0 out of 5. And so we could add to this, right? We could say, well, I want it, once it shows the answers, I want it to make the questions disappear and just show the end result. Or I want it to make it where the answers are hidden behind the back end of the server. That way someone can't cheat on the quiz. All kinds of things we can add to it. But you can see how just from us giving ChatGPT a few questions and then it telling us what to paste where, just that alone, it generated a WordPress plugin for us, right? Amazing right off the bat. Well, it gets even better because now we have this tool called Cursor and we downloaded it and we'll run it. I think I'm running it. Here we go. So now we're installing Cursor. We'll say I accept the agreements and I'll create all this stuff. I'll install Cursor. All done. Now click on Launch Cursor and see what comes up. Okay, here we go. Sign up or log in. So I think if I just log in with Google, so yes, log in, and then return to Cursor. And then I guess just use the defaults, everything until we get going. And Cursor is based on something called Visual Studio Code. So if you ever use that, it's that, but they added AI to it. So what we'll do here is we don't have a project, and that's okay. We'll go to File, Open Folder, and then in that folder, let's say we forgot once again where that local site is. We can go back to ChatGPT to assist us, and we can say, tell me again where the folder is where my local test site is located. And here we go, your username, local sites, test site 2, app public. So we can say, C users, local sites, test site 2, app public. And then we have WP content, plugins, and then here's this simple quiz plugin that we were editing. So we can select that folder. And here's where we're at. We're completely lost because it's a brand new piece of software, but there's 3 panels here, right? And so on the left panel, this is what's called the File Explorer. And if we had more files here, we could see them, but it's just this one file. And then in the middle, this is the contents of what you're editing. And then the right over here, this is the AI agents where you have two modes where you can ask it questions, and then you can also, so you can either asking is where you just like chat back and forth with it, and it looks at all your code, and you can say like, why is this happening, or how is this structured? But then the agent, this is where you tell it to make changes. And that gets us started, except for I'm not sure if it will. Okay, so it doesn't really understand PHP. It doesn't understand PHP code right now. I think it does, but it won't be able to kind of show the bugs right there in the browser. But I think right out of the gate, it can't debug right within the program, but we can still make changes. So that's a good start for us. So here's what we can say is we can ask, and we can say, tell me about this plugin. It's a simple quiz plugin, shortcode integration, clean interface, JavaScript functionality. And there we go. So potential improvements. Persistence of scores, 5 questions, correct answers, could be centralized. Okay. And maybe let's do this. We'll say, how can we make the quiz not based in JavaScript? Like, people can cheat using this, can't they? Okay, so how do we make it more secure? And that gives us this new code. And we could potentially continue doing all this in ChatGPT, but you see how it starts to get scary, and then you're copy and pasting, you're not sure what you're doing, and as this gets bigger, then you will, it will even forget like all the various pieces. So you need Cursor at some point to look at everything that we've created. And so it told us everything to apply, and so we'll just say apply. And we're applying all this, and we'll accept all, and it's made a bunch of changes. And then we can just do file save, and then go back over here to our browser and just try it again. And we'll make sure that it works once again. Submit answers. Boom, you scored 2 out of 5. So then we can say, instead of ask, let's see, did that? So did it add the AJAX? Yeah, it added the AJAX. Handle quiz submission. Handle quiz submission. Okay, great. So now if we're a computer geek and we right click and look at the source code, we see that it asks these questions, but we can't get the answers easily, right? There's you answer these questions, you put it in. Okay, so if we, there we go. Yeah, so the values do change. Okay, so then we can say, I want it so that when I send in the quiz, it makes the questions disappear and show the results. And now we're telling the agent to do it, and here it is, and it's generating, and then it won't make any changes yet. It'll just generate a bunch of stuff and then say, okay, is this okay to change in our WordPress plugin? And if it is, then we accept the changes. And so we can use this up and down, and it shows us what it will remove and what it will add, and we can click one at a time or just say accept the entire file. We've made these changes, and I'm pretty sure it might save this. Yeah, I think it might actually save it by default, because if we like add a space, there's this dot, and then if we click Control S, it saves our changes. And so technically, if you wanted to get really fancy, and you could do this start debugging, you run start debugging, find PHP extension, and there's, I believe it's called xdebug. So if you really wanted to put that right in there, then you could, to do things properly, it could debug PHP right here as we do it, but I don't want to get you overwhelmed, right? We're just getting started with this. We're just being beginners. So I want you to know that's there, but we don't need to do it. We can just kind of guess and check in this way. And we can go back to our quiz. Try this again. Boom, 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 boom. Submit answers. Check that out. Right now the questions disappeared and it gave us our score. And then we can even take the quiz again. Next, I might just kind of increment here, right? I'll say I want to only see a button that says Start Quiz, and when I click on it, it starts the quiz. And then I can also say I want it to show each quiz question one at a time until I finish it. And maybe I'll even get crazy and I'll say I want it to show a progress bar showing how many questions we've completed and how many are remaining. And we'll only do a few more iterations, I promise. I think you have the idea of how we can perform vibe coding in PHP and specifically in WordPress. You install the WP Local app for Windows or Mac, I think, to run WordPress locally. And then you can use ChatGPT to get yourself started, but an even better way to go about this is to install cursor.com. I believe they have a free 2-week trial, and then it's $20 a month, so you figure out a way to justify the added productivity. I mean, look at all this extra coding you'd have to do and all the reading of documentation and everything else you'd have to figure out. Here's all this stuff. It gave us all these changes, but I think the secret to this is you have to do it in small steps, and you have to test as you go along, and you have to strategize. Because if you try to jump from 0 to 100,000, then you'll have errors and you get frustrated and you won't know where things went wrong, and you'll have to have a debugging mindset. You'll have to say, well, where are all the ways that this might go wrong? And that's even a question you can ask chat, or you can ask the chat, right? You can go to ask and you can say, how might I debug this quiz plugin every time to ensure it is free of errors? What should I click on and do? What's my debug or testing checklist? And even that will strategize with you about what to do. Page loads without errors, shortcode displays, start quiz button, click start quiz. Does the progress bar appear? So the first question, do the next and previous buttons work? Try all this, test next and previous, and then do previous and next disappear as they should? Click each option, navigate away and back, answers should remain selected. Submit quiz, page reloads, results display. Does it show all correct answers, all wrong answers, mixed answers? Verify the correct answers, and you see how it makes it simple enough for you to check this out. So we go back to the quiz page, start quiz. Ooh, I like this, right? And we can say, test that, test that, test that. Submit quiz. You scored 3 out of 5. And then maybe we could go back and say, let's see. The end of the quiz, show me which questions I got wrong, what I answered, but don't give me the correct answers. And it will do that. And then maybe after it generates all this, then we can create a version where we can create our own quiz in the back end. And that requires kind of knowing a little bit more about what questions are asked, because we need to say, well, when I go to the dashboard in WordPress and I want to add a menu in probably settings, and that'll be the first step. Just add me a menu. And then I want you to list the quizzes, and then I want to be able to build a quiz, and then I want to be able to grab a shortcode for the quiz. And now you can see how the testing is just, it's getting even more advanced. But I hope that you're amazed that this is just Cursor right out of the box, right? We didn't even have to add that PHP debugger, because that's a whole other programming mindset. This is just, we installed WP Local, we asked ChatGPT where to find our site, we installed Cursor, and then we just opened the folder and edited the file. And then we just knew that on the left side is our file list, in the middle is our contents, and on the right is our AI. And then we asked it about what we could do to test it. So now we say start quiz, and maybe we'll try to answer these correctly. Oh boy. Answer all, well, maybe we'll answer a couple wrong, right? Submit quiz. And here we go. You scored 2 out of 5. The questions you got wrong, and then take quiz again. So then, let's say I want to add a settings page in the back end to create, delete, and edit quizzes. Don't add any of that functionality yet. Just create a blank settings page for this plugin. And as that's generating, technically, there is a way for you to click into like a certain part of your code, and you see there's like Control L to chat, Control K to generate, and you can just like select exact code, and then be like, what you can say, well, what should I change about this? And you can tell the AI what to change. But I prefer better to trust the AI to do this for me. And so I really don't do that very much. I mostly just go in the AI and work with that. And there's some other features that you might end up using later when you become more advanced. Like one thing that's huge is if you end up to the point where it errors out, you tell it what it did correctly and what you want it to change so it doesn't mess up too much. And there's also this kind of @ functionality here where you can, if you have multiple files, you can tag specific files. And if you do @ you can do docs. And let's say that you're working in here with code that uses like Amazon S3 or code that uses OpenAI. You can say like, I want to use this documentation from OpenAI to interface with it. And so that's getting into the more advanced kind of functionality here. But as far as us moving right along, we can say, so did that make our change? If we save that, go here. Okay, so it added in right here on the sidebar, so that's okay. And current status, the quiz is currently active and working with the default quiz, future feature. So that's cute, right? So what we can do is we can say, I don't want that admin menu as a root menu. Place it under settings and start building the admin features. So to start, I want to be able to edit the quiz questions, the default quiz questions and answers. And I don't want to just jump into it and say, oh, I want to create unlimited quizzes, unlimited shortcodes. There's too many things to go wrong. We'll just start with, can we change the questions that the default quiz is asking us? And now as it's generating all this, I'm getting to the point where I'm saying, I want you to separate out the CSS and the JavaScript, because when I make this change, it's just piling all this stuff out. So we'll let it do its thing, and we'll test it. And if the quiz works on the front end and on the back end, then we will ask it to separate the CSS and the JavaScript. And then we might even ask it to separate the front end and the back end after that, because it's just writing this huge file here. But we're hoping that we can get to the point where it's no longer hard coding the questions and answers, but now that's adding all sorts of functionality, right? Because now we're adding the ability to add and remove questions, and then to add and remove possible answers and choose correct answers and rearrange questions, and now it's just getting crazy. But let's go and accept the whole file and see what that gets us. So we refresh. Now it's under settings quiz, and here we go. What's the capital of France? Now this is very impressive. This is very amazing. And let's try this, right? So let's say, what is the capital of California? And we'll say Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, or San Francisco. update the quiz. So now that saved, if we change the bullet point, okay, so now that works. So we're already noticing a few things, right? We're noticing that when I save the questions, it's adding backslashes. So when I save the questions in the back end, it adds backslashes, i.e. there's that. And then that's a simple bug to fix. Let's also say, maybe we'll say make the correct answer checkboxes instead of bullet points, because more than one answer might be correct, but be sure we have to choose at least one answer is correct. And then we'll get to the next step of separating the CSS and the JavaScript and the front end and the back end. And I'm not sure why, as the code is flying past, why there's like default questions. And if I didn't know, so these are I'll see, like, are those hard-coded questions just by default? Use defaults. Okay. So we can ask our code, why is that? But we're still, it's still generating multiple steps here. It's working very hard for us. All right, look at all this. Fix the backslashes, admin interface, front-end quiz. So much. So we'll accept all the changes in the file, go back, and oh my gosh. Okay, so we already have an error. So I'm glad that this happened. So I think if we had that debugger built in, then it would have done it, but I don't want to go to the trouble of installing a bunch of stuff. So we just said, and we'll just paste the error back in here, right? We'll say, here's what the error was, and it'll fix it for us. And I can see the error, and I'll fix it. So it looks like the problem was backward compatibility. We had a quiz already in place. It was already stored in a specific format. It was trying to use the new format, and now the old and new format will work as we're building this. And what it's doing here, if you're not understanding, it's basically performing hours of work. This would take you at least an afternoon to do all these things in just a few seconds. Ooh. And it's even like running a commands. It's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. All right, fix the backwards compatibility issue, or so it says, right? It's the coder, we're the tester. We'll see if this is done. Accept file. Now here's the moment of truth. And I believe if we still had problems, I think we could scroll back up, and I think there's a way to like revert back. Yeah, here we go, restore checkpoint. So let's say you get to the point and it's broken no matter what. You're like, oh my gosh, I broke my plugin. You can scroll back up to before we made all those changes and click on restore checkpoint, and it would just revert back. And when I used to code in ChatGPT by hand and copy and paste code, I would found myself doing a lot of that. Like, oh, go back to how it worked before, and then maybe begin again in smaller steps and test the steps as we go. So a little tedious, but not as tedious as doing all this on your own. So we'll go back, and let's see. Now we can, well, let's see if we, and then we could go back and say, well, what are the tests we should perform? But one thing is, what if we gave no correct answer? Update the quiz. Please ensure that at least one correct answer is selected. And so now so we'll fix this, but now I'm seeing, well, I don't have the ability, so let's see if the backslashes work. Okay, the backslashes, still adds one backslash. So we'll say still adds one backslash, i.e., and I want the ability to delete questions. Okay, both issues have been fixed. AJAX deletion process. Security features even. So we'll accept the file. and then we'll test it. Ooh, very cool. Now we can delete the question, and we'll double check with the backslashes, because that seems a bit sus. All right, now the backslashes save. And now let's try deleting a question. Make sure you want to delete, and it renumbers. And now let's say I want the ability to rearrange questions, give me up, down arrows. And then as that's going, let's look at what else you want to do. So we want to separate the CSS and JavaScript, separate the front end and back end, and then we want the ability to add and remove options. Let's try that. And look at this. It added 950 lines of code, subtracted 59. This is amazing amounts of work. And so now we can rearrange this, can update the quiz, and then we'll say, give me the ability to add and remove and add and remove options for each question, and then ensure that the options when each question is displayed on the front end is shown in a random order, but in the back end, don't randomize. Keep it in the order that I keep the options in the order that I create them. And so as that's going, something that I just remembered is that what makes Cursor even more amazing is a voice option. I think you can go Win H. Here we go. Speech services. Click the microphone button to start voice typing. Oh, here we go. And here's how we can speak directly to Cursor. And if we had a lot of instructions, we didn't feel like typing a bunch, we can just talk in that way. All right, so we don't want to have that, but it's good to know we can do that. We'll accept those changes. We'll test again. And we've been really lucky so far about not having any errors along the way, but we'll see if it still works. So we can add or remove options. Add option, Neptune. Okay, and we'll save that. That seems to work. What is known as the blue planet. We'll see if it lets us do 2 options. Okay, let us know if it does 0 options. So, that's a little weird, right? If we try to change something and then we say this wrong, it won't make any changes whatsoever. So we'll say, if I try to set a question with no correct answers, let's see, show me an error immediately instead of allowing me to save changes. And then we might also say add more save buttons throughout so they're easier to locate. And we still want to separate that CSS. We still want the ability to run multiple quizzes. And we could just keep on adding features to this all day long, right? To store a quiz result for a user or send an email notification, but we'll get to a stopping point very soon. Okay, accept file. All right. And then maybe we'll say add some wordage that clicking any one save button saves the entire quiz. All right, so while that's generating, we can delete questions and let's test it out. So we'll go back to, it's been a while since we tested the front end. So view the quiz page, start quiz. Ooh, why is stuff already checked? That's really weird. Okay, so we have more to report. So for some reason, actually we'll do it in the voice mode, right? So for some reason on the front end, some of the options are already checked. And I also want it that on the front end, the choices are radio buttons, so that way only one answer can be selected. All right, so while that went along, we'll accept the file, and then we'll run that, and we'll do some testing. All right. So take quiz again, start quiz. Yeah, so that needs to be fixed. But we'll check on the wordage. Saves the entire quiz, not just this question. Okay, I like that. Now I need to figure out what's with that wonky default checks if options are already selected. Need to ensure no options are pre-checked. Oh, okay, so it's like as we were checking each choice, it was keeping it checked in the following question. All done, accept file. And then we'll test our quiz. View the quiz, start quiz. Now we can only check one after another. We can answer some of these questions. And I think we had two of the same, but I think that was our doing. And here we go. You scored, and here's the questions you got wrong, and take quiz again. And then, so there's just two more things I want to do, and then I'll end this video, I promise. Let's say separate out the front end PHP, back end PHP, front end CSS, back end CSS, front end JavaScript, and front and back end JavaScript. Maybe we should have done that in separate steps, but this gives you the chance to see that, see over on the left side, we just have the single PHP file, and Cursor will make new files for us. So it's right now it's separating out all the CSS, and you see how it added this admin folder here and added admin styles. Now it's going to make the other CSS as well. So it's made public CSS, admin, CSS, and JavaScript. And now I think it's building just the JavaScript. So yeah, now we have admin scripts and we have quiz scripts. And you can also see that it has added all these files here, but it's also opened the different files in the tabs on top. That way we can jump to just the CSS or just the JavaScript. Even though what's funny is we haven't even looked at very much code in this, have we? It's mostly been just telling what the AI we want it to do, and we haven't even looked at any of the code directly. And look at this, it's making a README file for us. It made all these files separately. Quiz, results. So this is a major change. It took us about 5 minutes to generate all this, and we'll definitely save this and then give it a thorough testing from start to finish. Look at all this. It made all these backend files, public files, separated out, and now I'm hoping that and we'll just have to click through and review each file. And I'm hoping that means that when we make a change, because you can tell it's taking longer and longer to, oh no, taking longer and longer to apply, to apply each change. Now it should be faster, but let's try this out. So we've got our quiz. So I think I accidentally forgot to approve this one. There we go. Except I accidentally clicked reject file. And did I do that with this one too? readme accept file. Okay, so I forgot to save one of the files. Here we go, start quiz. Uh-oh. All the files in here. Quiz page. So that's the first problem. When I click, so we'll start on that, right? On the front end, when I click the start quiz button, nothing happens. So we'll have it work on that. And then we'll look at the settings. So we've got all of our questions. We had this one here twice, so we'll try deleting that question. All right. And do we have, I'm noticing, do we have the ability to add a question? I don't think we do. So that'll be next. And then I really do want to have the ability to have multiple quizzes, but that's like you thought that separating the files was a big change. That's a huge change. So I won't make you sit around for that. But I do want to get this functioning before wrapping up. And as this is generating, I'm pretty sure there's what's called a YOLO mode. I think if we go to File Preferences, one of these settings, File Preferences, VS Code Settings, there's what's the YOLO mode means that whatever we do, it will just apply the changes without us having to approve. So as that's going, let's see, where in Cursor do I set YOLO mode? Oh, what's the answer? I thought it was in settings. Just apply changes without me having to approve. Editor, Cursor, AI, auto apply, AI edits. So, Cursor, AI, what the heck? I don't know. Anyways. Automatically YOLO. What the heck? Alright, anyway. Let's get back to accept. I guess we can just click accept all changes, right? That's close enough. So let's close those settings and try this again. So first we need to make sure the quiz works. Start quiz. Uh-oh. We click on S2 or F12, I mean. So refresh. F12 opens this console. And let's give it this error. This will be a lot more helpful. Still does take a while to make these changes, even with our separate files. Accept, oh, all right, accept all. Ah, still working. Okay, now it works. And then it even it tells us how to debug it. So accept that. And start quiz. Aha. All right. It seems to be working. So we can answer all the questions. Get to the end, shows us questions we got wrong, take quiz again, then we can go to the settings, simple quiz, and now I want the ability to add and, oh no. So Control C, can we, oh, I didn't want to make that. So it was typing right here in the code. We want to go over to the right, the AI agent, and here we go. I want the ability to add, remove, and reorder questions within a quiz. Okay, that took another 5 minutes, so we accept all changes. That's quite a feature addition. So now we can have questions. We can add a new question. We can put it in, and we'll say, what is 2 plus 2? 4, 5, 7. Save the quiz, and go and test it. One thing I wanted to make sure we test is that the answers are randomized, which I think they are. And I'm also seeing, well, I'm seeing that I think I might be saving the same question twice. Yeah. Or just, oh geez. Yeah. The backend is saving the same question and overriding questions after it. So I save question 3, and it saves the same as 4 and 5 also. Does it override the answers? Yeah. So yeah, you get the idea. I'm not going to subject you to all this, but I'll let this fix, I'll test it, and then I'll make the big change, which might take me like 10, 20 minutes, of saying I want the ability to have multiple quizzes. When I go here, it's just one quiz, it's just one shortcode. I want to have the ability to list quizzes and say new quiz, jump in, add this, and then I can put a different shortcode on different pages. So you can see we just build and build and we get crazier and crazier, but the secret, all these minutes, hours, who knows how long later, an hour in, we install WP Local, and then we use ChatGPT to generate the WordPress code for us. And then if we really want to get deep into it, really want to iterate, then we install this program called Cursor. And the only real secret you need to know about Cursor, you don't even need to install a debugger, is just you go File, Open, Folder, and then you browse to your folder, and then it puts the files on the left, the code in the middle, and then the AI on the right, and you just get into a testing, debugging mindset. You tell it what you want it to do, you have it make the changes, you flip back, and you try your best to break it, and then once you've gotten those bugs worked out, once you say, hey, it breaks if I do this and that, then you go on and continue with the features. I'm Robert Plank. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more super cool programming and marketing and podcasting advice. We'll talk to you next time. Leave a comment if you had fun, if you learned something, and bye for now.